Alright, I want you to do something for me really quick. Close your eyes. Actually, don't close your eyes. You're watching this, but mentally close your eyes. Imagine you live in a city, not just any city. A city so old that your parents grew up there, your grandparents grew up there, and their grandparents grew up there. We're talking generations deep. At some point, something weird starts to happen. The city stops feeling like a place that could disappear and starts feeling like it just won. Like gravity or taxes, it's just there, permanent, eternal, non-negotiable. Now, honestly ask yourself, if you lived somewhere that has survived for 500 years, would you wake up on a random Tuesday morning thinking, I wonder if the city collapses this week? No, you would wake up, make your tea, argue with your neighbor about the price of oil, and go about your day. That was Baghdad in the year 1257. 5 centuries old, widely important, basically the New York City of the medieval world, except with multiple hard copies and digital libraries and fewer pigeons roaming the streets while hovering over it as well. History, however, has a very rude habit of not caring about your confidence, and that is really sad. Baghdad was founded in 762 CE. Actually, I don't know what CE stands for, but I think it's Common Era. Go by it. Anyways, by the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mansur. And here's the thing, Baghdad wasn't just some city that happened over time. It wasn't like, oh, a few farmers settled here and then a market popped up and then suddenly there's a shawarma town in the neighborhood. No, Baghdad was planned, deliberately designed from scratch, and the original layout, a perfect circle. Right, weird. Okay, a circle, which honestly is the most we have arrived architectural flicks I've ever heard of. Rectangles are for regular cities. Circles are for the cities that want you to know, like nobody accidentally builds a circle that was a choice. At the very center, the Caliph's palace and the main mosque are situated, right in the heart of it all, front and center, as if to say, yes, this is exactly where the most important things happen. Then radiating outward, neighborhoods, markets, homes, government buildings, all organized in a neat inner and outer rings. And surrounding the whole thing, massive defense walls, a mound, and then right next door, the Tigris River, which was perfect for trade, transportation, and general medieval city vibes. So on paper, Baghdad was basically maxed out. Defense, check. Water access, check. 5 centuries of political authority, check. Incredible reputation, big check. It was the kind of city that if you were rating cities on a tier list, you would immediately put in S tier and move on. Of course, that was at a time. But here's where Baghdad gets really interesting, because it wasn't just wealthy and powerful, it was smart. Baghdad was home to the House of Wisdom, and that translates to Beit al-Hikmah, which despite sounding like a very motivational poster, was actually closer to full-blown research university and translation center. Scholars gathered from everywhere. They took knowledge from Greek philosophy, Persian science, Indian mathematics, basically the greatest intellectual hits of the ancient world, and they studied it, built on it, translated it, and pushed it further. Let me clue you in with their findings. They had mathematicians that were developing ideas that fed into algebra. They also had astronomers that were mapping the stars. They even had doctors that were writing medical texts that people would still be referencing centuries later. So when you picture Baghdad at its peak, don't just picture gold and marble. By the way, the gold prices are going really up. Are you guys buying or what? Up to you. Picture a city where on any given day, someone was probably having a very heated academic argument about the nature of the universe while someone else was calculating the angle of the comet. It was that kind of a place, which makes what happened next feels extra dramatic. Because while Baghdad scholars were busy being brilliant, something was happening far to the east. Something involving a lot more horses and a lot less philosophy. We need to go east now, like really east. We're talking the vast grasslands of Central Asia, modern-day Mongolia, Kazakhstan, parts of Russia, and northern China. This massive expanse of land is called the Eurasian Steppe. And yes, it is actually pronounced that way. Steppe, I already checked. And look, the steppe was not exactly a vacation destination. Winters, they were brutal. Summers, they were really dry. Your commute, actually, wait, you are the commute. You pack up your entire life and move with your herd. But here's the thing about difficult environments. They tend to produce people who are extremely good at surviving them. Kids learned to ride horses before they could really walk. Archery on horseback wasn't a skill. It was just Tuesday. Mobility was everything. Then in the early 1200s, a man named Temujin did something remarkable. He united many of the Mongol tribes under one banner. History would remember him as Genghis Khan. And here's what made Genghis Khan different from every other warlord before him. He didn't just build an army. He built a system. Commanders promoted on merit. Units clearly structured. Communication traveled across enormous distances. And the Mongol cavalry, they traveled with multiple horses each. While most medieval armies were basically moving at a slow, determined walk speed, not that speed, Mongol armies were moving at the speed that would make you question, wait, when did they get here? Ready for the part that breaks your brain a little? Within just a few decades, the Mongols controlled territory stretching from Mongolia to Eastern Europe. We're talking modern-day China, Kazakhstan, Iran, Russia, Ukraine, and even parts of Hungary. If you watch Mongol expansion on a time-lapse map, it wouldn't look like a gradual conquest. It would look like someone spilled an ink on the page and just couldn't stop it. City after city, kingdoms after kingdom, and now the Mongols were moving toward the Middle East, which meant one very uncomfortable thing for one very important city. Baghdad was directly in the path. The man leading this campaign was Hulagu Khan, and of course, he was going to be the grandson of Genghis Khan, someone who had clearly inherited the family's whole thing. His army was enormous, and it wasn't just cavalry this time. He brought Chinese siege engineers along. Siege engineer specialists, people whose entire job was, you have big walls? Oh, that's cute. We have a plan. By now, many rulers across the region had learned the Mongol diplomacy worked. It was pretty simple, really. So you have option A, submit, possibly survive, possibly. And yes, I'm using that word very loosely, like we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 0% chance of survival, but hey, it's still technically on the table. Option B, resist, make things very complicated, like the total annihilation of your wealth, your city, and your general well-being, all of it gone. That's it. That's the whole menu. A lot of rulers quietly picked option A and lived to tell the tale, while Baghdad picked option B. Of course, the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mu'tasim refused to submit, and honestly, from his perspective, you can kind of understand it. Baghdad had survived 5 centuries of political chaos. It was legendary, untouchable, the center of the world. Surely the Mongols would think twice. Well, the Mongols did not think twice. January 1258, Hulagu Khan's army arrived outside Baghdad, and things moved fast. The city was surrounded, roadblocked, supply lines cut, any hope of outside reinforcement become about as realistic as it sounds. Meanwhile, the Mongol engineers set up their equipment, trebuchet, and yes, it's actually pronounced that way, trebuchet. Like I'm about to drop you a $99.99 exquisite tiny dish of fake gold, trebuchet. Catapults, machines built specifically to do one thing, solve the world problem. Imagine being inside the city and hearing that the distant thud and crack as stone after stone slammed walls. That had stood for generations, walls that were supposed to be the reason nothing bad could happen here. Eventually, sections began to break, and once that happened, everything moved very quickly. Mongol forces entered the city, organized resistance collapsed almost immediately, building libraries, centuries of accumulated knowledge gone. The Abbasid Caliphate, which had ruled for over 500 years, effectively ceased to exist. The news spread across the region like a shockwave. Baghdad has fallen. People who heard it probably said something like, no, that cannot be right. Baghdad doesn't fall, but it had. And that realization that even the most permanent seeming things can collapse hit the medieval world like a gut punch. If Baghdad could fall, what exactly was safe? Historians look back at 1258 and ask the same question every time. How did such a powerful city collapse so fast? The answer isn't really about the military strategy or bad luck. It's about a much more uncomfortable truth. Baghdad was playing by the old rules. The Mongols had written new ones. New warfare, new speed, new levels of organization, a completely different kind of force that the city, for all its brilliance and history, had never prepared for. And when something built on 5 centuries of confidence meets something that doesn't care about your 5 centuries of confidence, history changes fast. The fall of Baghdad is one of those stories that sticks with you, not because it's about defeat, but because it's about the danger of assuming the world will keep working the same way as it always was. Similar to the 9-to-5 jobs, by the way, it won't stay like that forever. Things change, whether you're ready or not. It won't always, and sometimes history doesn't give you a warning. It just arrives with forces, a lot of forces. Thank you all for watching. Bye.